welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to the video, and welcome to a video where I talk all about books that make me happy. I am so excited to be sharing this video with you today. It is in collaboration with a bunch of other wonderful booktubers, so please make sure to check my description box below. They will all be tagged, and make sure to go watch their videos, like their videos, show them some love, subscribe to the channels. I know they would really appreciate it, and so would I. So really quickly, I'm just going to go over the booktubers that are a part of this collaboration, and then we'll get into the recommendations. So this is actually a part of a two-part collaboration. Last month we did books that made us cry. This is books that made us happy. And this collaboration was put together by none other than Becky from Beck X Reads. Thank you again so much for inviting me to be a part of this. As always, so much fun, and I'm so glad that I was able to join, and I cannot wait to see all of their recommendations. The other collaborators on this video are April from Happily Ever April, Daphne from Being Daphne, Jackie from First Lady Reads, Michelle from Michelle's Library, Millie from Into the Nook, and of course, last but not least, but Neva from Reads with Neva. So that's everyone that's a part of this collaboration. Now let's talk about the books. I feel like every time I sit down to do a video like this, I think, okay, I'm just gonna grab a handful of books to talk about them. And then I look at my shelves and I'm like, well, that one made me happy, and so did that one, and so did that one, and so did that one, and now I have this very, very large list of books to talk to you about. So let's get into it. This is in no particular order, but the first one that I have here is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is really a placeholder for the entire off-campus as well as Briar U series. This series immensely makes me happy. There are so many times that I have laughed out loud, like literally hurting so much because I was laughing so hard, and I love a book that can do that. But also, this entire series tackles some really difficult topics. I think that the relationships and the complexities between these characters is really delved into and written extremely well. And I also feel like this is a perfect start to smuttier, romances. Also, it's a great start to a sports romance if you guys are looking for a good starting place. There are a lot of sports romances out there, but I think that this is one that does it really, really well. And I think that Elle Kennedy's writing is just fantastic, but this book literally brings me joy every time that I look at it. I really have to reread the entire series once I finish up the Briar U series, but I love it so much and highly, highly recommend it. Now, I feel like I could have grabbed all of Ali Hazelwood's books, but I think the one that really brought me the most joy was Love on the Brain. I think this one is so well done. I know a lot of people didn't love it as much as her first release because it felt very similar, but for me, I think that it felt very similar, but I think the things that lacked in the first book, for me, really was well executed in this one. And that being said, I gave them both 5 stars. I think that they are both well done. I do love the setting around these books, women in STEM and strong female characters, but overall I just think that Ali Hazelwood's writing is fantastic, but this one in particular really did make me happy, brought on a lot of smiles, and it was something that I look back very fondly of. This book is more of a recent read, and oh my gosh, I just found myself smiling and being so happy while reading this book, and that is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This book is so well done. Now, let me explain to you how much I viscerally don't like reading about cowboys, but something about this bull riding cowboy is everything that I could have wanted and more. I think this relationship was so well done. Again, the complexity between the characters was so well nuanced and perfectly written, and I think that the delving into the harder topics of this particular book was so beautiful to watch, and I just love a main character that is willing to go above and beyond for their partner and do whatever it takes to be with them, and these two characters did that. I loved it, you guys. I loved it so much. It was so beautiful, so wonderful, and it definitely brought a smile to my face. I'm going to talk about a series as a whole because I couldn't pick one that I wanted to highlight, and that is, of course, the Brown Sister Trilogy by Talia Hibbert. This is one of the first traditionally published spicy romances that I read that truly hit the mark for me. I feel like trad publishing is not my go-to anymore for spicy, romances that tend to hit all of my trigger points that I love to see in books, but this one definitely did that. It brings me so much joy when I look back on this series. I really have to do a reread because it's been so long since I read all 3 of these books, but they are so wonderful. I love the fact that it's written by and about Black main characters that have a ton of representation in whatever aspect you are looking for, but I think that all 3 books highlight something different that is very well developed and very well executed, that is sensitive enough for those of that experience, whatever it is that you're reading about, but also showing that it doesn't make them who they are, it's just a part of who they are, and I absolutely love that. Talia Hibbert has a great way of writing stories that make the characters so believable and real, and these ones just bring me so freaking much joy. Up next, I have to talk about Birthday Girl. I feel like this is the pinnacle of taboo romances. Everyone talks about it. Everyone loves it. Well, not everyone, but I personally loved it. I think that it's a fantastic age gap romance. It's also a ex-boyfriend's father romance, so definitely forbidden and taboo. But this is one that I have reread and loved it even more upon the reread than I did the first time. I just think that this is written so well, and it's not icky. I feel like sometimes when I read an age gap romance or even like a ex-boyfriend's father romance, it feels kind of gross and icky, but this one just worked so well. There was a lot of reluctance between the two characters that felt palpable on page, but they just couldn't stay away from each other. And I don't know, when I look back on this book or I see this book, it literally makes me smile because I think that it's written so unbelievably well. Pike Lawson is for sure one of my book boyfriends, and I just love this one so much. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend. Okay, this is a tough one for me to recommend in something that makes me happy, but it does, and it's gonna sound so weird, and if you guys have watched me recently at all, you know how much I rave about Kennedy Ryan. She has quickly become my favorite romance author, and I have to talk about these two books, Longshot and Still by Kennedy Ryan. Probably one of her darkest two books that she has ever written. Hardest book that I've ever read, for sure, and when it comes to a romance, and this one definitely brings on some tears, breaks hearts, but it's... by the time that these characters get to the end of their stories and they fought for everything that they absolutely 100% deserve, like, I couldn't not feel happy for them. Like, my heart was bursting with joy seeing these characters finally get the happiness that they have fought so hard for. Both of them deal with different difficult topics. This is actually a third book in a series, so you do have to read the novella and the first full-length novel before you can get to this one. But when I tell you that it's worth it, there are no skips. You have to read the series. It is so good. Same thing goes for the Hoop series. I think that it's fantastic. All three books definitely bring me joy, but this one, I don't know, it has a special place in my heart. There are definitely some very, very, very hard scenes to read. About 200 pages of this book does deal with sexual assault as well as domestic violence, so please go in lightly. This one also has trigger warnings, but I don't want to say what they are because it is a spoiler, but please check your trigger warnings if you need to. But oh my god, please read these series. They are so good, and if you have not given Kennedy Ryan a chance, you're missing out. Okay, this next one is another one that is hard for me to recommend because I also recommended this one in the video about books that made me cry, but this series also brings me so much joy. I don't know if I'm capable of a reread because the emotional damage that it brings is scarring, but it also makes me so happy. It's another one of those things where these characters have fought so hard for the happiness that they deserve that when you get to the end, you can't help but feel happy. And that is, of course, the Green Creek series by T.J. Klune. I love these books so much. These are the original self-published editions. They are being republished with Tor, I believe, but I love this series so much. It is very heartbreaking. It is very, very sad, but these characters, by the time they get to the end of their own stories, they all are in a state of happiness that makes it feel worth it. And by the end of the series, the last book after the big story has come to a close, like, the happiness that I felt for these characters was unmatched, and I love it so much. I highly recommend reading this series. It is gay werewolves. That's literally all you need to know. Go in blind. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's so good. Okay, I feel like I should get my other T.J. Klune out of the way, and that is In the Lives of Puppets. I loved this book so much. I also could have recommended or talked about The House on the Cerulean Sea. I feel like that one's a great one for a book that made me happy, but this one is a more recent read for me, and I love this one so much. The characters, the storyline, the beautiful friendship that is created between these characters, the found family aspect. I mean, what's not to love? It is beautiful. It's so well done. It's a quirky book. It has some very interesting humor. It definitely took me a little while to get into it, but by the time I got to the end, the happiness meter was all the way up here. There's some bittersweet happiness going on at the end of this book as well, but happiness all the same, and I highly, highly recommend his new book. Let's talk about the next two books together because they are part of a series, and that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score and Things We Hide from the Light. These are chunky books, but when I tell you, both of these books had me rolling with laughter. Like, I couldn't breathe. My abs were hurting. My non-existent abs were hurting so bad because I was laughing so hard. These two books, they are just, the characters are so funny. Yes, does it have serious points? Yes, is there hard-hitting topics? Yes, all of that. But the small town vibes in here are done immaculately. The side characters especially bring so much humor to the table that you just can't help but smile your way through it. It is so good. I highly recommend this series. It's definitely one of my favorites. If you're willing to pick up a chunky, small town, Grumpy Sunshine romance, these are the ones for you. Okay, I feel like this next author is going to be no surprise to you, but I couldn't leave it out. And I feel like at this point I'm a broken record, but I have to. Sarah J. Maas is the end-all be-all happiness for me. She is my whole personality. If you guys know, you know, I love Sarah J. Maas. I'm not going to harp on this too much because I feel like I talk about her in every single video, and I know so many people are tired of seeing her recommended, but these books genuinely bring me joy. Yes, did this book absolutely break my soul, and will I ever get over it? No, of course not. But the experience of reading this book has so many memories attached to it that I can't help but be happy. I have a tattoo inspired by Crescent City. It is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and the absolute joy that I think of when I think of this particular book is unmatched. A Court of Thorns and Roses, it's God tier. I don't care what anybody says. You can fight me on it if you want to. I don't have to listen. I think it's amazing. It brings me so much joy. Same thing with Throne of Glass. I haven't finished the series, but what I have read of it, joy. Absolute joy. Heartbreak, sadness, but also joy. So wonderful. Another recent read, we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Oh my gosh, you guys. When I told you that trad publishing is not hitting, this hit, okay? This hit in every way that I wanted it to hit, and it was so good. I loved this romance so much. It was so sweet. We have this cinnamon roll character that will literally do anything for the female main character. We also have an age gap romance, but the female is actually older in this one, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It was so beautifully well done. I think that Abby Jimenez has a beautiful way of writing books that make you fall into their world and you just don't want to get out. I could not put this book down. It was so amazing. There were some tears shed, but I also think that it was just so beautifully written. I need to do a reread of this like ASAP because the joy it brings, it's high up there. We're getting there, I promise. I had to pick a specific book out of the series because this one, joy. Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is the 5th book in the series. I'm so sorry if you hear my son wailing down there. He's going through it. But I love this so much. Again, this is the one exception to cowboy romance. This is it right here because Ryland, he could bend me over that barn, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. I love these characters so much. It is a grumpy sunshine, but the female, I would say, is more grumpy than Ryland is, but it's also a bodyguard romance, and they end up on this ranch together, and the steam is steaming, the sparks were sparking, and I just loved it so much. Absolute joy. Now, fight me if you want to, okay? But this is the best book in the series. I don't care what you say to me. Daddy Josh Chen takes the cake, okay? And when I think about this book, I smile, I laugh, I swoon. If that is not the 3 things that encompass happiness, I don't know what is, okay? I love this book so much. I think it is great. If you have not read the Twisted series yet, I think that you should. I have definitely been vocal in saying the first book in the series is not my favorite, but I think that all of the books in the series are very good and very much worth the read. But when you get to this one, thank me. You're welcome. So sorry if the ankle changed or anything. I had to go downstairs to put my baby to sleep. But let's continue. A Very Merry Bromance. This is the book I've been waiting for this entire series. Not because of the characters, not because of anything like that, but this is the first book that I feel like hit all the boxes of everything that I wanted from these characters and more. I loved the Christmas vibes. I loved these 2 characters and how much they really built upon each other and made changes for each other that were better for themselves, but also better for these 2 as a couple. How many times am I going to say as a couple? Talking about this book, but I loved it. The writing spectacular. I love this series. All of them have been 4, 4.5, and 5 stars for me, but this one was gold. I'm going to talk about this author's books together, even though they're both standalones, but The Nature of Witches and Wild as the Witch. These 2 books, joy. Absolute joy. They are moody, kind of atmospheric. They give me autumnal vibes books, but something about these characters and Rachel Griffin's writing was just so beautiful that I couldn't help but be happy after reading these. This one is something that I absolutely love. It is one that I have reread and still loved it just as much the second time as the first. And I just recently read her debut novel and it was so freaking good. Both of these are dealing with witches, obviously. Nature is a big part of it. Climate change is something that really talked about in this one, and animal rescue in this one. And I just think that overall is a beautifully well done, written 2 books, and the author in and of itself is genuinely perfect, and these books bring me so much joy. The graphic novels to beat all graphic novels. Heartstopper. Do I need to explain myself here? I don't think so. Nick and Charlie, boy meets boy, boy falls in love with boy, like, nothing is better than this. The TV show, phenomenal. The graphic novel series, phenomenal. We just heard that there's actually going to be not 5, but 6 graphic novels in this series, and I am so excited. But This is like the epitome of happiness, the epitome of joy, and I love the series so much. If you haven't read it yet, please do. And if all else fails, just watch the TV show. It's so good. Speaking of graphic novels, I haven't actually read this one, but I'm using this as a placeholder for the first book, which is The Tea Dragon Society by Kate O'Neill. This is one of the cutest graphic novels I have ever read. It's just sweet and wholesome and very atmospheric, very just wholesome. It's just so cute. It's these characters that take care of and nurture these sweet little tea dragons that harvest tea, and it's beautiful. It's so good. I cannot wait to read book 2. It's on my TBR for the month of May. Hopefully I can get to it, but I'm so excited for this one, and I really recommend that you read this series. We've come to the end, and did you really think I was gonna leave Tate James off this list? Absolutely not. Of course, I picked up the last and final books in both of her Reverse Harem series in the Shadow Grove world. Technically, there is one more, but these two hold a special place in my heart. We have Kate, which is the last book in the Madison Kate series, and Timber is the last book in the Hades series. You guys, when I tell you that these books literally, like, I could reread them day after day after day and not get tired of them. So much joy, so much laughter, so much heartache, so much what the fuckery, but they're so good. They're so good. They are hands down some of my favorite books that I have ever read. Tate James, Kennedy Ryan, Sarah J. Maas are my favorite authors of all time. These books, nothing holds a candle to them, nothing holds a flame to them. They are superior, they are wonderful. If you have not read this series yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? And like, obviously, this was on my 3rd reread. I'm just having the best time of my life. All right, that is everything. That is the very large stack of books that I wanted to talk about today that made me happy. Have you read any of these? Did they also make you happy? Also, feel free to share down below what books you read that made you so happy. I would love to get some more recommendations from you guys so that I can add them to my TBR. Please make sure to go watch the other collaborators' videos and see what books they talk about. I, for one, cannot wait to see all of the recommendations and add to my never-ending TBR list. That is the end of this video. If you made it to the end, leave any type of smiling emoji, and thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Baby, turn it down like a sweet